Hi, and welcome to another design diary on the board game I'm working on, working title Publisher Perish, as you probably know if you're watching this channel. And what I want to talk about today is the character attributes in the game. So, as you hopefully saw in an earlier video where I kind of gave the overview of how the gameplay works, the main thing you're trying to do and how you ultimately win the game is by getting enough of these achievements. So there are personal achievements and professional achievements, and you kind of get a balance of both of those, and I'll talk in another video about how that works. But you don't just get those all the time. You're doing other things along the way to help you get to a point where you can get those. So as an example, one of the ways you can get those achievements is by getting a good job. But to get a job, you have to have certain things that you've done, a certain amount of publications and certain professional reputation, stuff like that. So character attributes are one of these things that aren't actually achievements themselves, but they're things that help you get there. You can kind of think about this a little bit like an RPG or a Dungeons and Dragons sort of thing where your character will have different attributes and you're trying to level them up along the way. So one of the challenges I had was thinking, okay, in an academic world, what would sort of be the key attributes of a character that you might be trying to improve? In the very earliest, mostly complete version of this game, the one I did the first playtest with, which revealed all sorts of problems, there were 5 attributes for each of the characters. So there was teaching ability, there was an institutional reputation, an external reputation, happiness or satisfaction, and a stress level. And as the game has gone through more playtests and refining, there's now 4. So I got rid of the satisfaction or happiness thing, which kind of got confused with the stress. Those were kind of very similar. And a lot of what was affecting that ended up being things that became part of these personal achievements. So in those earliest versions of the game, there was not a personal achievement category. So it was kind of a way of getting at that sense of, are you accomplishing things in your personal life? And I've now switched that over to personal achievements, which I think works better. So that means in the current version of the game, there are now 4 attributes for each character. So one of them is still stress. This is kind of how stressed out you are. And in terms of the game mechanics, it ends up affecting how many time units you get to play each year, with the idea that more or less as you're more stressed, you're kind of less effective. You can't get as much done in a year because you're mentally stressed out and don't have the bandwidth for it. The other 3 more or less correspond to the 3 categories of work you do as a professor. So there's kind of your research and publication work, there's your teaching work, and there's your service work, meaning committees, advising, and all those other things you're doing within the institution. So one attribute is teaching quality, and as it sounds like, that's kind of how good a teacher you are. The second one is institutional citizenship, and this is kind of your reputation within your own institution of if you're reliable, if you're participating in committees and stuff like that. And the third one is your professional reputation, which mostly relates to the publication work that you've done, your research and getting it out there. It also can be impacted by the caliber of the school you're at and a few other things, but that's basically it. So those are the 4 character attributes in the game right now. Like I said, there's the stress, and then there's the other 3 having to do with roughly your teaching, research, and service work as a faculty member. And there's mechanics in the game, different things that can happen to try to raise those up, or other players might do things to try to sabotage you and bring some of those back down, because it's a competitive game as well. But that's kind of how I've broken it down at the moment. I'd love to hear any feedback on whether those seem like the right categories, you like them, there's something big you think I've missed that should be in there, or you think one of the categories I have actually isn't a useful attribute. Would love any feedback on those and hearing back from that. I think that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next design diary.